Hello, my name's Rob, this is Cattle Rabbit Scale Model Studios, and today I'm going to do a little bit of a painting guide and show you how I've been painting the coats / robes on these new Ash Waste Nomads. These are fantastic miniatures and they are loaded with lots of detail. It's not a long video, there's not many steps to it, but I do find that the colour combination works really well, and anyone can achieve a really good desert style using the colours and methods I'm going to show you today. Now, I'm not going to show you how to paint the whole thing because I like to think that you know, you paint your miniatures how you want unless asked. I don't really see the need to teach people how I paint silver onto a piece of plastic. But I am just going to focus on this little back section here that I haven't painted. I do recommend before starting you paint the robes first, as they're the biggest part, and the first colour we're going to use is Balor Brown. All the paints I'm going to use today are from the Citadel range, and all I'm going to do is, using a little bit of water, is make sure that they are base coated quite nicely. Here all I'm going to do is take my time, and this is a fantastic little colour, it covers really well. However, I am still going to do 2 coats just to make sure I've got a really good solid foundation and a good colour to start from. Just take your time, making sure your paint's nice and smooth, and you work it into all of the little folds and things like that in the miniature. Now that I've done 2 coats, I've got a really nice solid colour, and the next thing we're going to do is apply a shade. For this I'm going to use Agrax Earthshade from Citadel. With this I make sure my brush is damp when I actually put it into the shade itself. This I find just helps spread it out a little bit. I'm not mixing it with water, but it is running very easily off of my brush. The important things to remember with shades is to finding a balance. You don't want to just throw a ton of shade at it because it will all gloop together and you'll get some really weird drying patches. But also you don't want to put on too less because otherwise it's not going to run into the recesses and do its job. So I just find that as long as it's pulled in the places that I want, I do spend some time just manoeuvring the shade about, making sure it's set where I want and it's sitting how I want it to. I did have a little bit of a problem with not getting enough in one of the folds, but I go back and I corrected that after it had dried. Don't worry too much because we are going to relayer again once this has dried, but do make sure it's completely dried before moving on to this step. It's all nice and dry. We're going back to Balor Brown. Now all I'm going to do here is brighten up the majority of the flat sections, being careful to leave the Agrax Earthshade that's dried in the recesses. We want to keep those recess bits nice and dark. Because Balor Brown is a yellow, if you do add a little bit more water to it, you can actually get a bit of a glaze effect, which is actually better for helping you blend near those folds. So it's not a harsh line between the shade and the new colour we're putting in. You get a bit of a transition, which is a really good bonus, and that's with one of the perks of using yellow. I know people don't like doing it, but there we go. So now we're left with that. It looks pretty clean and crisp as it is, and really if you didn't want to go any further you could leave it there, but I'm going to add some highlights, and for this I'm going to start with Morghast Bone. This is a great colour that's on the spectrum of Balor Brown, and all I'm going to do, using some nice thin paint, I'm going to work my way around all the edges. On the sharpest bits of the fold I'm also going to just carefully put some layers in, just making sure that everything's highlighted. Do take your time with this step. It will just add a little bit extra to your miniature, and it's a great way of showing off those bits that maybe need a little bit more detail, or you want to draw the eye to. Is a great way of adding highlights and things. I use the side of my brush if I need to, and once that's done I'm left with this. Once again, It looks really, really good. You can just leave it here. I'm actually going to go over and add almost like a second layer to my highlights just towards the edges. And I'm also going to paint little lines just randomly on the cloth to make it look like it's a bit weather beaten and a little bit worn. Once again, this is a great way of simulating texture on things. It doesn't take much, just a little line or a dash here and there with some thinned Morghast Bone. And it just makes it look like it's seen better days, which for these, or my desert dwelling nomads, I think is quite fitting. And really, that's all there is to it. It's 3 colours. As I said earlier, I would recommend doing the robes first on these guys, just purely because all the other detail is laid upon them, and it's easier to tidy up, especially once you're base coated first. So I do hope that helps, and anyone that was interested to know how I do my Ash Waste Nomads, if there's any other questions, please just leave them in the comments below. I will put in the description all the colours that I've used for all parts of the miniatures, in case you would like to know that as well. But thanks again for sticking around, and I will see you all next time. Do like and subscribe, take care, and yeah.